And to go back to the very beginning of what we were talking about with the ego and everything else, one of my favorite things to say and live by is the only thing I know is that I know nothing. And your ego is going to freak out for the first little bit when you start saying that, because it's like, well, what do you mean? I know all of these things. I know these things. I'm an expert in this. I know this. I know that. But you free yourself from the need to be the expert. You can actually just take a deep breath and be like, if I'm wrong, it's okay because I don't know it.
Yeah. Welcome to the Work Hard People's Podcast. Hope everybody's having a great day out there. I'm the old man, James. We have the beautiful co-host, Emma, here. And we have the beautiful Miss Jordyn Cassandra, who is the founder of Make Moves and Motivation. How are you doing, Jordyn?
I'm fabulous today, James. Thank you.
That's fantastic. And you're coming to us from outside our country. You're in
You
British
bet.
Columbia, yeah?
Yes. Kamloops,
Outs
BC, Canada. It is cloudy today, but we're starting to get into the upswing of spring, which is awesome because winter here in Kamloops is like a valley, right? So we're like right in between, like the actual city itself is built on hills into the valley with a river that kind of has three entrances and flow points right from the center of the city.
yeah.
And it's overcast all winter long because it just
Okay.
soaks right into the valley, right? So now we're
Yeah.
like blue skies and sunshine. You start to feel like you have a soul again.
Yeah, that's our friend Heidi lives in Alaska, right? So they have periods of like long months of mostly darkness.
Yeah.
But Jordyn, so Jordyn is I'm gonna read a couple things from your website because I love your mission statement on the Make Moves and Motivation website. But Jordyn is a binge recovery specialist, metabolism expert, and shame healer. And if you go to their website, which is makemovesmotivation.com, correct? Is that
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And okay, the old guy's got to put his glasses on for this one. But what it says is, who is MMM? Over 50% of North Americans have disorder eating, or excuse me, over 50% of Americans have disordered eating or disordered body image. The statistic should leave us all shook, yet we barely bat a lash. Why? Because binge eating doesn't harm families, it doesn't harm children, it doesn't harm marriages or relationships, or does it? MMM is a company dedicated to the fight against diet society, eating disorders, and the exponential shame that comes with carrying around these issues in silence. And what I love about that more than anything is that it speaks such to the heart of the issue that we're dealing with in this country, North America, the world for that matter. And that is that we have literally been corrupted, not only by our families, media, advertising. It's all about this is easy, get this, get that, buy this, do that, all these different things, right? You eat when you're happy, you eat when you're sad. It's a feeling, it's all this great stuff, right? This is how you feel better. Go eat a box of donuts because you're going to feel better. When I was growing up, if I was sad, oh, let's go have a cheeseburger. Let's do this. Oh, he's not feeling, it's your birthday. Let's fill him with a bunch of sugar. All these different things. And you address those head on. And what I love more than anything about what you do is anybody can teach this stuff, but not everybody's lived it. And you've lived it. So tell us a little bit about you, Jordyn, and what was the driving factor for you to create this company to help others?
Well, believe it or not, the initial start to my business was in the middle of all of I told you I wasn't going to swear early, but the fuckery. It was literally at the prime of it. I have been numbing out from what I think about myself for my whole life since I would say the first experience I remember where I compartmentalized my hurt feelings and tucked them away and pretended that I was fine was after my first kiss. I had an experience where I kissed a boy at the movie theater after a lot of pressure. I went against my moral compass. I was in 6th grade, and I remember the next day at school, he spread all of these nicknames and rumors about me and told everyone. And I was so embarrassed, and I just pretended in that instant that nothing could touch me. I did not feel it. I did not acknowledge it. I just went above it, which in the moment, in the short term, would make sense as a really good, strong coping mechanism for a 13-year-old, well, 12-year-old girl, right? Like that was probably a good decision, but that was the beginning of a very long slew of decisions of compartmentalization and burying the things that I felt hurt me, or that sat in my heart and I didn't want to look at, right? So I was numbing out. I started with body image. That's, I think, the teenage girl's issue. And I grew up in a place that would be similar to like growing up in California, where everybody's beautiful and very superficial and very expensive.
Grew up in Southern California, so I'm very aware.
Right. So that kind of, they actually call it California in Canada. So it's like that same kind of energy. So growing up there, body image was the first thing I grabbed onto. And I was like one of those awkward teenagers. Like I didn't grow until I was 16. I grew 7 inches in 9 months. I was really short and awkward and braces and glasses. And then I blossomed in high school to like 5'10" and no braces, no glasses, all of that stuff. Right. Yeah. So then I carried on and first thing was anorexia. It wasn't like I'm going to starve myself to hurt myself. It was, I can control my weight if I don't eat. So I did that for a while, and living in a loving family. I did grow up in a loving environment. So living with a loving family, not eating was something they would catch on to after a period of time. So then I started starving myself throughout the day and then binging at night. And then that's when the binge eating started. And then I would purge in high school because I was so afraid of getting fat that was what I did for years. I did that. And I had a lot of food sensitivities. So it's easy for me to slough off the purging as, oh, I just don't feel well. So let me just go. And I ate that thing this morning that didn't sit well. So I'm just gonna, and that's how I covered that up. So anyway, that carried on, and binge eating turned into binge drinking and binge eating. The binge eating thing kind of was consistent throughout everything, but then binge drinking happened. I started working at a bar when I moved to Alberta. Right away, we drank all the time. Working in that lifestyle in that city in particular is very, very boozy. So 4 to 6 nights a week, we were drinking, binge drinking, blackout drunk, all of those things. And then I carried on into fitness, that was the next bout of extremism that I went for. And I kind of dabbled for a couple of years, because I was still drinking and I was still binge eating and I was still in that party phase. And then I was like, I want to just see what I can do here. So then I decided I was going to compete, and I took 6 months from the beginning. I took a personal training course. I took precision nutrition. I decided that I was going to coach myself. I learned about macros. I studied while I coached myself through the whole process. And when I got to the point of being behind the curtain, when you're going to go on stage, and I was watching these girls, after I had flexibly dieted my whole way through to show date, except for the last 3 weeks, I was very strict with exactly what I ate. But before that, and I watched these girls, one in particular really struck me, and she was sitting cross-legged on the floor back there with a red velvet cupcake and her cell phone right next to each other. And she sat with it unwrapped and stared at the cupcake and her phone until her coach texted her and told her at the exact moment she could eat it. And that made me feel sick inside, because I was like, that is so extreme. But so was what I was doing. I just was so blinded to what I was doing, I couldn't even acknowledge it. So that was when I started coaching, was macros, was in that point, because I felt like I could help that industry. That was my, like, let me ignore all of my own issues and see what I can help in other people that I can visibly see are succeeding. So from there, it went from into fitness. I started coaching. I was successful in coaching. It was a side hustle thing for me. I had left the bar. I went into oil and gas. And oil and gas was really good to me. I climbed that corporate ladder. I dove into work, and that was when I slowed up on drinking. But then my next level of validating myself and ignoring all of my shit was workaholism. So I became a workaholic and a fitness addict and a binge drinker and a binge eater. Like I was all of these extreme things. And I also consistently would validate my bullshit with toxic relationships or relationships with people who had it worse than me. So I was always like a little bit further ahead than them. So it made me feel good about myself. And they were great people. They just were they had their own demons too, right?
They were broken, and we find a way, right?
Yes.
We always are looking for a way to make ourselves feel a little bit better or a little bit up, right? I mean, and we even find a way to rationalize our defaults, or all the faults that we have. So like when I was super heavy, I mean, I would fat shame myself before anybody else could.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I have clients like that now. They were actually at my house today. They came down today because they wanted to do some personal instruction in the gym. So they came down. We went to the gym. We did this stuff. And I also do personal development sessions with my clients to get into the mental side, right? To
Yeah.
help understand, where are you coming from? And it's a father and a son, and his son is 13 or just almost 13. He's very overweight. And he said, I was asked him, so what do you do at school? How do you interact with people at school? And he's like, well, I make fun of myself. And I was like, well, why do you do that? He's like, I don't know. I said, do you do it so that you do it before they can do it? And he said, well, yeah, because it makes me funny and they like me. And so then we had a whole nother conversation about starting to, appreciate who he is as a human being, that he is worthy. He's worthy to be treated with respect and dignity. He's worthy of the things he's doing. And he's like, well, sometimes I just feel like a failure. And I said, listen, dude, we've been working for a few months now, like 6 weeks. You've lost 20 pounds. Yeah, you're 320 pounds. Now you're 300 pounds. You've lost 20 pounds. Does that mean we have work to do? Yes. Does that mean that you should enjoy and embrace your success? Yes. You're doing a great job. It's not going to be perfect. You're going to make mistakes, right? We find a way to rationalize that within ourselves. I know Emma did that herself. You want to talk a little bit about that real fast? Because Emma, because it fits right into what we're talking here about, when you were pregnant and then afterwards. And I mean, you've done that
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah. I mean, it's really common. It's a front for everyone that puts up like anything. And it doesn't even always have to be weight. So like we're talking about this and I'm like, shoot, I do this right now and it actually has to do with my ego. So I like when I go into the office, I talk about how I know I have an ego problem and I only point it out because I know someone else is going to say something. So I'm calling myself out first. So if they say something, I'm not offended because I'm already putting up that front. I'm already putting up that wall. So if they do say anything, I already know that they already know that I know. So it's not going to offend me. But yeah, when I was pregnant, I mean, even post or pre-pregnancy, I was still like severely overweight and I would just eat whatever. And my whole mentality was like, well, I mean, it could be worse. I still look good. Like that was what I told myself, even though I know that wasn't true. That's just what I told myself. And then, I had Grant and then I was 230 pounds and I just lived with the connotation that, oh, I just had a baby. I just had a baby. It is what it is. Like, this is fine. This is fine. Just like very complacent mindset. And if I pointed out that I'm overweight first, like I already know I am. And I tell them, I'm like, yeah, I'm still like 230 pounds. Like I just had a baby though. Again, it's the same concept of just putting up that front. So if anyone says anything, it's not a big deal in my mind or anyone's mind really, because it's just a front. So you're already putting up that wall. So anything that's being said is hitting that wall before it can actually hit you. essentially is what it comes down to. And so like, again, it just comes, it breaks it down, and you really just have to understand that, I mean, yeah, like you are worthy. And at the end of the day, just because you're not at your goal doesn't mean you failed. And failure is not even, a lot of people have the connotation that failure is negative, and it's not, because it's a stepping stone to success. And if you haven't failed, then you're too comfortable. You haven't pushed yourself beyond your boundaries, beyond to tap into the unlocked potential that you have. You can't, like, you literally can't. If you succeed constantly without any failures, go buy a lottery ticket, or you're not doing anything, or you're not doing anything that's really out of your comfort zone. Like we talk at work. So like you have this circle, right? This is your comfort zone. And then you have this circle, and this is outside your comfort zone. So the goal is to get out of this circle and get into this circle, right? So if it's doing X amount of this or whatever this is, do that. So then now this becomes your comfort zone, right? This is your comfort zone. And this is not your comfort. This is your uncomfortable, like situational stuff that you don't want to do. So this is now your comfort zone. And then you have to, and it's just like keeps breaking. And if you just constantly stay in that circle, that's going to be your circle for the rest of your life. You're not going to change. You're not going to, if you don't make yourself uncomfortable and go work out, or stop eating so much, or actually eat the way that you're supposed to eat. Because again, like you were saying, Jordyn, that it's not, like a lot of people have the connotation that, or notation that, like an eating disorder is always just, oh, you're not eating enough. That's it. That's the basis of it. That's what everyone thinks, is that, oh, you just don't eat enough. You're just starving yourself, when there's so much more to it. There is, okay, yeah, you starve yourself for 3 days and then you go binge for a day and a half, 2 days. And that just disrupts everything along with your endocrine system and everything under the sun that has to do with your hormones. But overeating, no one wants to touch into overeating. No one wants to say that that's an eating disorder, even though it 100% is. It's just now being thick or whatever, big.
Yeah, especially nowadays,
women,
right?
Yeah, that notation. Oh man, that's like my favorite word today. That my vocabulary is very limited right now. It's been a long day. But that idea of, oh, it's just body positivity. Yes, okay. Yes, we love heart disease. We love liver failure. We love the hormone.
See,
Great.
that's one of the things too. That is one of the things that I love about you, Jordyn. And I'd like to know how you got to this point, is that you in your posts on Facebook, right? You strip all that away. You just say, listen, we're vulnerable. We mess up. This is what we've been taught. This is what we need to do. This is where I was. This is the crap I was dealing with. How did you get the confidence to lay your life on the line and say, listen, this is how bad I was. This is how you can fix it.
Well, there's a few different pieces to this one. So even to just link into what we were just talking about with the speaking the thing you're ashamed of before they can call it out, right? Because you're afraid of being caught
Yeah.
as the thing that you are, right? So but if we look at even deeper into that, anything that you feel like you're afraid of being judged for, or anything that you feel like you're that you don't want them to call you out on, you don't want them to see, you don't want them to judge you for, is something that you somewhat inside agree with. You are
100%.
The only reason why you feel defensive in any situation is because somewhere deep inside you, you're like, well, fuck, they just saw what I think about.
You ain't wrong. You ain't wrong. You're actually right.
That's right, spot on.
Right? So, but the thing with that is the way we beat that is by shining a light on it, right? Because the reason why we run from what we're meant to do in the world, or the reason why we run from going outside of our comfort zone, or the reason why we run from the things that we really love in life, or anything that excites us, is because we're afraid of somebody shining a light on the things that we are insecure about, the things that we are ashamed of or embarrassed of, or we're afraid we're going to get caught, with. So if we shine a light on it ourselves, if we put a big Batman spotlight on our forehead that displayed all of our insecurities, then who can hurt us?
Exactly.
Right?
There's no ammo.
Exactly. So me going and
correct.
telling, right? So me going and telling my story, it was hard in the beginning. I think, I mean, I don't really fully even remember not being able to tell it, but at this point, it's like, when I think about it, it would be hard in the beginning because I was embarrassed of those things for a really long time. Like while I was participating in them, I was really embarrassed about them. And the thing that is the biggest issue in the world right now is shame, right? We feel shame is why we lash out at people. Shame is why we attack other people. Shame is why, because we're afraid, we're protecting the thing we're ashamed of. We're defensive because we agree with the thing that they're attacking us on. So we're like, let's lash out back because that's the only thing we know how to do. And there's so many facets to this. Like we can go into the beliefs of that lie underneath anger, and the beliefs that lie underneath anxiety, and the beliefs that lie underneath sadness, because all of those tie into this. But telling your story is how you take the big scariness that your mind projects about your story away from it. It's like the monster under the bed is really just a bunny, you know, but your head makes you think that it's so big and scary that it's going to eat you, that it's going to drown you, it's going to kill you, it's going to end your life, it's going to end your reputation or your light, or it's going to suffocate you, or whatever you think the monster under the bed is going to do. But when you just go and look at it and you see it's just a bunny, and everybody's got a bunny under their bed, you know, that
Well,
it's like
the
all
coat
have
hanging on the door. It's nice, and all you see is like a person standing there.
we all have those little things, right? Where every single one of us, that I don't care how confident you are, how perfect you feel. Everybody has a little bit of insecurity inside. Everybody feels just a little bit broken.
I think it's a lot of insecurity. Everyone has insecurities up the ass, in all honesty.
Yeah. But it's that feeling a little bit broken. And so you got two options there, right? You either can embrace it and admit it, which is very difficult, or you can put that front up.
Yep.
Right? You can, I'm great. I'm perfect. Ain't nothing gonna touch me. Right? I'm not broken, but you are.
that was me for the longest time, defensive at
Embracing
every
it, right?
turn.
Isn't that what helps? When you finally look inside, when you finally look in the mirror and go, hey, I'm having this issue, that whatever your issues are, because we're all different, right? Whatever they are, when you finally look in the mirror and go, I've got to work on this, that's when you can finally get better.
That's
when
what
you
we
can
talk
embrace
about.
it.
That's what we talk about a lot. Like the accountability mirror. If you can't look into it and see yourself and hold yourself accountable, that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a problem, because you need to be like, no one's going to hold you accountable for your own actions. No one will. And if they try to, you're going to get defensive about it. Like that's what I did. Mason was telling me that I needed to work out, and I'd be like, fuck off. I look great. I just had a kid. Like, you're lucky to have me. Like, no, I was morbidly overweight. I needed to change some lifestyle habits. And I mean, that's a, like, kind of what you were saying, James, where there's like two sides of it. Like you have two voices in your head, right? You have the voice of it's the voice of reason, and the voice of I
Which
guess
Jordyn pointed out earlier is really the voice of ego.
yeah.
Just
Yeah.
saying.
So it's like you have the voice of reason and the voice of like comfort, and like you just want to be like, this is how it is, and this is fine. This is totally fine. And 99% of the time, this voice is like, no, you don't need to do that. You're fine. You don't want anyone to notice what you're doing. It's that, like what you were saying, Jordyn, where it's like anxiety, and you're worried that the monster under the bed is going to eat you and just devour everything that you built or you thought you built, right? And it's just trying to make you just stay where you're at. Just stay where you're at. Everything's fine. And then you have this voice. It's like, no, you're a fucking dumbass. Everything that you're doing is completely wrong. And you know that it is, but you just don't want to listen to the voice of reason. And 90% of America listens to this voice and not the voice of reason, because they don't want to hold themselves accountable. They don't want to look in the mirror and say, I do not like who's looking back at me, because it hurts. It's disappointing because you thought maybe you've lived your life as correctly as you're supposed to the past X amount of years. In all honesty, you've probably done it wrong. And which there's no right or wrong, but for lack of a better word, you've done it wrong. You've not taken the steps that you needed to. You've probably not been the best person that you could have been, which we all aren't, right? We're all trying to be better followers of Christ if you are a Christian. And then if you're not, then overall just try to be a better person, right? You don't want to be a fucking dick to everyone. But at the end of the day, if you can't get out of that comfort and then that's just so crazy. Like, I'm telling you, I saw it this morning. Like, these people at work are just not working. And I don't understand, because it's a money day, like, go make money. But no, they want to be at home. They want to be comfortable. They want to lay in their bed. And if anyone calls them out, there's an excuse. Simple and plain. That's what it comes down to. So yeah, there's my rant for the first part.
We call them the Emma rants. We love them. But no, I mean, Jordyn, you do that. I'm telling you, it's one of the things I love about you, girl. It's one of the reasons why I followed you for the past 2 or 3 years, because the things that you put out there, it's not just positive. Some of us, listen, we got junk. We're dealing with stuff, right? Everybody's got different issues. Find out what it is. Let's fix it.
And forgive it, right? Because it's the
Yeah.
shame that's keeping us in that place. It's the shame is the monster under the bed,
Yeah.
right? It's that we don't want to look at the shame, but really all the shame is just, it's shame. When you feel shame for the way that you've been, like Emma, when you were just explaining like how you kind of fucked up for most of your life, not you, but like in general, right? Like that's kind of fucked up for most of your life. And I did, and I can own that, right? Like I fucked up for most of my life. I was not my best self. I was not my highest self, but I will tell you for sure that I know for a fact that I was doing the best I could with what I had and what I knew would be protecting my heart and soul. So now that I have more pieces to the puzzle, now that I know more about spiritual development and about myself and about the truth of what I am, now that I know more, why is it up to me, the version I am now, who knows more than that version, to judge her? Why am I judging her and feeling shame for what she was doing her best at, right? So if we can look at the past and the things that we have done that we've screwed up on, and just take a second and be like, was there any moment there where I was actually doing this to harm myself or other people? Like, was I actually trying to do anything but receive love and acceptance? Because that's always what we're in pursuit of when we're acting out like that. It's a fear of not receiving love. It's a fear of not receiving acceptance. So even when we're a dick, it's because, or even when we're telling people about the ego issue we have before they can see it in us, right? That's a protective mechanism for fear of losing love, for fear of not being accepted, right? So if you can show that, oh no, I've already accepted this about myself.
So you have to accept it too. It's fine. We're great. All good. Right? Yeah. No, at the end of the day, like, having grace for yourself and having grace, really that's what it comes down to, is just having grace for yourself and how you've been in the past, where the line is drawn is being able to say, this is how it was. This is how I am now. How can I be better? What can I learn from that to attribute to now and to attribute to the future? And that's where I think a lot of individuals, they lack, because they're too embarrassed to acknowledge the mistakes they've made in the past. Like, I know people personally that are exactly like that. And I tell them, I'm like, it's okay. Like, these things happen. It does not mean you're a horrible person. It does not mean that it's the end of the world. It means you made a mistake and you can learn from it. But there's no accountability. And like, at the end of the day, a lot of people, you can't help people that don't help themselves. And we were just talking about that on the previous podcast with Ashley, right? And at the end of the day, she said, only you can fix you, is really what it comes down to. But yes, I agree 100%, making sure that you do have grace for yourself for everything that you've done in the past, but making sure that you can also apply, okay, what can I do differently? Maybe that wasn't the best idea. How can I change that process that I did last time? Because obviously that didn't work, but then again, that comes down to failure, right? So I don't like the word failure. I really don't. I hate it. But again, my vocabulary is very slim right now. It's been a long day. So for lack of a better word, failure. it's just a stepping stone, right? Like you just because true failure is if you don't try again, right? If you stay exactly the same and you're exactly like the person you are, and you have no aspiration to try to better yourself as well as the people around you. Now, again, like, yes, you can only do what you're capable of in the moment. There's a lot of outside influencing factors. Maybe everything's not great at your home life. Maybe your job sucks. Maybe your financial situation is super stressful, and that alone can just make anyone crumble under the weight of a feather. It could just make everything snap down. But I already forgot where I was going with this. I told you my brain's fried. Oh yeah. So just making sure that you can just hold yourself, say, okay, this is how it was. This is how I am. How can I get better? Okay, that's the end of my second rant.
No, well, we do that, right? I mean, we talked about this earlier this week, you and I, just in conversation. That we have these moments sometimes where we're so predisposed through media and all these outside influences that we have to think a certain way, look a certain way, behave a certain way, right? But Emma and I were talking earlier, and I said, you know what? It is a quote I came across. I wish I could remember where I came across it, but I can't. But it said, if you could stare at the most beautiful person on the entire planet, but if there's no beauty within, you will quickly find their flaws, right? Because that's where it comes from. But we forget that sometimes. We forget that this doesn't matter. We think we've been told it matters. We've been told we have to look this way. We've been told we have to act this way, but it really doesn't. What's in here? Are you willing to serve? Do you want to uplift? Do you want to help your fellow man? Do you want to help the neighbor next door? Are you a beautiful person in here? Because that's where beauty comes from, right?
I mean, shoot, you go watch some of those. Man, I'm gonna say you. I do. I watch them. They crack to me. But the dating shows on Netflix, like Perfect Match and those. I'm watching those and I'm like, wow, those are just some of their prettiest people. And I see them like the first episode or second episode. And then as it progresses, you're just seeing how kind of awful these people are and how ignorant they are and just overall just not good people. Like there's this one girl, she was probably hands down the prettiest female I've ever seen in my life. Like terrible person. And I instantly was like, yeah, she's not that pretty actually. Like she's really not.
Those flaws, man. You see them.
Yeah.
Hey, Jordyn, you post stuff all the time. I mean, you're embracing life. You are out there just living it. I love it. It inspires me. Your journey inspires me to be better. Your journey inspires me to inspire others. Right? I mean, you're doing a great thing. I love that I was able to connect with you. I love that you chose to come on this podcast with us and talk about it a little bit more because your journey, it's inspiring. I'm very appreciative of what you've done with your company, your life, the way you use yourself as an example of, hey, listen, this is where you could be, this is where I was, this is how you fix it.
Well, I believe that your traumas, all of the stuff that you move through, everything that you overcome is how it's life is providing you with a opportunity to see and know what it is you need to heal and work through. It's rubbing up on life is giving you circumstances that rub up on all the insecurities that we talked about. So if you use life as your biggest teacher and let it rub up on those circumstances, let it rub up on the insecurities and bring them to the surface and create these emotions for you that stimulate this suffering, then you know what needs to heal. Then you know what you can look within and you can find the beliefs underneath each of those emotions and myth bust them, because that's what they are. They're myths, right? If you myth bust them, you tear them apart and make it so that they don't have any meaning for you anymore, then they can't come and steal your attention anymore, because you're going to look at it and be like, well, that doesn't even make sense. Why would I even invest my time into thinking about that? Because that's ridiculous. But you have to myth bust it, because your brain makes it seem so real, because that's the lens it's viewing the circumstance through. So if you use life as your teacher all the time, and I think that's why I'm able to do what I do, is because I don't hold any shame for the versions of me that I was, because I have done the work to find compassion for the versions of me that I was, because she was doing the best she could with what she had. But you have to do the work to find the compassion. Otherwise, you're going to keep shaming yourself and blaming yourself and bullying yourself to the point of just waiting for someone to say something that agrees with what you've already, the hate speech you've already given yourself, right? So, and when you're sitting in that, you're constantly on edge. You don't know how to be present, because you're always thinking about how you're going to respond to the thing that they're going to call you out on. And you miss out on most of your life. Most of the joy in your life is gone because you're in your head about what you might have to say, or what defense you might have to put up. So I don't really remember where I was going with that, but when you use life as your teacher, it quite, like, it is always working in favor of your evolution to move towards peace. We just have to use the catalyst. We have to use the suffering as an indication that my thinking right now is not aligned with the truth of what I am. And Emma said something about Christ earlier, and that would be synonymous with the truth of what we are, is that holy, loving, holy, forgiving, holy, like totally pure is in here, right? And your mind makes you not know that it's there. Your mind can't see it. It lives simultaneously with your soul, with the light of which you are, but it can't recognize it. So if you're living out of your head, you're not living out of your heart. You can't be doing both at the same time. So if we use life always to notice when we are in our head, and when we're in our head, it's usually suffering, it's shame, it's anxiety, it's fear, it's sadness, it's depression. And if we can use that as a catalyst to look inside and find the inner beliefs that are making us feel that shame and that suffering, and then, like I said, myth bust them, then you can find your way to a more confident, more peaceful, more loving state of being at all times, because you're clearing out the shadows that jump in and pull you out, right?
Yeah, and I'm a firm believer that we will learn more through our failures than we will ever learn from our successes. Because of those same things, right? Failure gives you the opportunity to turn inside and gain perspective. Okay, this is what happened. This is what I tried to accomplish. This is how I went about it. And this was the outcome. How can I fix that? How can I be better? Um, we all have that moment in time, that switch sometimes that flips where we realize, okay, I have been going about this wrong for so long. And it usually, like we've talked about this several times today, it switches back into ego, right? We want to be right. We want to think we have all the answers, but we don't. I tell people often, I am a 51-year-old broken man who is learning every single day. I've seen a lot in my life. I've learned a lot in my life, but I still learn every day. And when you quit doing that, when you get stubborn, when you turn back into ego and think, I deserve respect, I should know this, I've done this, it doesn't matter. There are people, even younger people, better than me. Younger people that have gained knowledge in a subject, especially in this world, that I do not understand. And they can teach me to be better at that. You know, Emma teaches me many things. Emma is half my age, more than half my age. But I learned things from her. I learned things from her husband. Her husband's been a great help to us and things that he's done. We always need to be learning. We need to appreciate each other. We need to try to help each other and really get ourselves to the point where we're just trying to be the best version of ourselves. Because I think so often we forget to try to do that. We're so caught up and concerned with, I need to be like this. I need to do this. I got to use this filter so that I'm looking perfect. Uh, no, no, just be you and be the best version of you.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look even into being the best version of you, right? Like if you actually are doing your best, there's no room for shame. Like if you know in your heart that you are actually showing up with your best every day, no matter what it looks like. If this is all that I have to give, if you're doing the things, if you have a list of things that make you your best self every day, I call it eating your own dog food. Like when you are eating your own dog food, when you are doing the things that you would give somebody else advice for, right? The things that you are so quick to tell everyone else to do. If you're doing those things, there's no room for the shame bus to come in and park in your mind, right?
Yeah. No, real quick, my wife, so she allows me to talk about these things sometimes. She suffers from depression and some anxiety, right? She has for, I don't know, 12 or 13 years. Uh, and there's been some ups and downs with that. At her job, she is probably the most successful person at her job, right? She does a great job. She shows up all the time. She works hard. Um, she closes a lot of business for what they do. And when she has bad days, she'll call me and she feels terrible. She's like, "That sucks. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. It's not happening." And I'm like, "Honey, take a step back. Look at what you have accomplished. Look at what you do every day. You are there doing your best. Not every day is going to be a gold star day. The fact is, though, you show up and it doesn't matter if it's a gold star day or not, you do your best." But she'll say, "Oh, I should have done this, or this didn't happen, that didn't happen." And I'm like, it's not always going to happen. We're going to have failures, right? We're going to have that. And it hits her very, very hard, which just what you're talking about. We got to find a way when we fail to not kill ourselves over it. We've
Well,
got to find a way to build that back up, right?
and that's why binge eating is even a thing. That's why I even
Yeah.
have a career in this particular niche,
Yeah.
is because we find a way, but we do it by numbing, right?
I've found a way to fit this whole pizza in my mouth. I've been there before.
Right?
I know what, I've
That's
been
exactly
there.
it. You eat
Yeah, you
until
have a bad
you,
day.
yeah. You eat till you feel anything else, right? You eat until you
Yeah,
feel anything else. But underneath it all is really just that feeling of not enoughness, right? It's that the guilt and the shame comes, sure, for things that you have done, or the things that have been a mess up or a failure or whatever. Shame comes from that. But if you go to the root of that, it's you feel shame for not being enough, for
hmm
not doing enough, for not having enough, because our mind, our egoic mind, is of the belief that we are inherently lacking. It always
You
believes
feel
that.
unworthy.
You are not whole, you are not complete, you are missing something, you can be lacking something, so you are always lacking. So that's why we always feel best when we have goals, because psychologically, your mind has decided that your happiness is in the goal that you're working towards. So you are in forward motion towards your happiness, towards
Yeah,
your enoughness. You feel like your enough is attached to this future moment when I've got the fit body, or I've got the job that I want, or I got the promotion, or I have the money, or I have the this. And that's why whenever we reach goals, we always have to set another one. Because it's not, the
yeah,
truth isn't that our happiness is in the moment. Our happiness is here now. We just have to learn how to choose it. And so what I do with people when it comes to binging, when it comes to anything really, it's just really the human condition is to believe that you aren't enough, right? Like I market to binge eaters specifically because I am one, or was one, I guess. I haven't binged in quite a while, but
yeah,
the things that I do is just learning about your mind, learning about the ego, learning about how it wants so badly to grab onto something outside of us to make us whole on the inside. And that's why we get upset. That's why we get anxious, because we're afraid that we're not in control of what might happen. And are we going to get to the thing that we said we were, that proves that we're enough? How are we going to get there if we don't have control? That's the fear part, the anxiety, the stress, the nervousness is all about that. And then anger comes from, we get angry when we feel like someone's in the way of this identity or this goal that's going to make us feel like we're enough. And then we become depressed when we feel like nothing is going to make us enough.
yeah.
Right?
Emma and I, we were talking about that just this past week. It's funny how sometimes these conversations just fill in. Learning to be comfortable in your own skin is a thing, right?
Yes.
Just learning to be good and comfortable in your own skin is important. Be comfortable with your choices, the decisions you make. Uh, they're not all going to be right, but that's okay. You need to be comfortable. You you need to learn to embrace, listen, I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to do some things right. I'm going to make some mistakes. When I make the mistakes, I learn from them. I progress forward. When I do things right, I recognize, hey, I've done things right. It's okay to pat yourself on the back now and again. It's okay to say, good job. You did this one thing. And so it's always learning, right? We're always learning, whether it's from our successes or our failures, but we're always learning if we're truly trying to progress.
Well, and if we want to be comfortable in our own skin, the only thing we have to do is master our thoughts. That's
Hmm.
it. Because it's only our perception of ourselves that makes us uncomfortable in our skin. It's only what we think about ourselves. It's only the
Yeah.
automatic thoughts. But the problem is that we try to change the thoughts that come in, and we take
Yeah.
credit for every thought that shows up, right? We're like, it's so funny. This is my favorite analogy to use when I'm talking about this. It's your brain is a supercomputer that just produces thoughts based on memory. It's just creating thoughts like your heart beats. Except the
Hmm.
difference between your brain and your heart beating is that when your heart beats, you don't go, I did that, I did that, I did that, I
Yeah.
did that. You don't, but you do that for every
Yeah.
thought that shows up in your head as if you chose it. But if you think about it, like actually think about it, the thoughts that arrive in your head, are they just showing up, or are you actively choosing them? Are you choosing the thoughts that make you feel like shit about yourself, or do they just show up automatically? Well, they just show up,
Well,
right?
self-doubt's a thing, right?
But it's automatic. It just happens
Yeah.
like organically. There's nothing you can do. Like your heart beats, your brain just thinks thoughts based off of what you believe about yourself, right?
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, Emma, we've had many conversations about this. Just self-doubt creeps in. It tries to eat you up.
Mm-hmm. And it's going
It's
to.
Mhm.
You have to reprogram your way of thinking. You have to learn enough about your mind that you don't feel like every thought that shows up in your head is your fault, right? So you can step
Yeah.
back and decide which thoughts that show up, which ones actually mean something to you, and which ones are just fluff from some old program that's still playing its old loop, you know?
Yeah. 100%. 100%. So, hey, Jordan, what do you got? What do you got? You got anything coming up in the future? Now, so, hey, you've published a few things, yes?
I have an ebook that is out. It's called The Diet Conspiracy. It is free for anybody who wants to download it. It just
Yeah.
talks about the fuckery of diet society. It talks about how it came to be. It talks about how limited the information is out there. And it talks about how to take your metabolic status back, how to take your metabolism back from the throes of diet society and all the damage that's been done to it through the process of fad dieting and restrictive dieting and 1200 calorie diets and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Which is that it's funny. One of the biggest issues I have with my clients is they're like, that's too much food.
mhm.
Like, no, brother. What you've been doing is not near enough food. You need to eat. You have destroyed your metabolism because I get that all the time. I don't know why I'm overweight. I only eat once a day. Okay. First of all, what are you eating in that one meal? How many calories in it? And do you know that your body's going to say, okay, I'm not getting any nutrients. I'm shutting the hell down. I am shutting down.
Yep,
And then when it gets it, because it's been shut down for so long, now the metabolism's going, yeah, okay, I'm storing everything because I don't know when I'm going to eat again.
exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
I've actually done it to myself where I'm like, eating, early on. I don't now. I eat plenty of food. Now. I eat more food than, I mean, I have days with some of my work, like there's times, especially on the weekends, I like to do two a days, right? I'll do do an hour and 15 minutes in the gym in the morning and an hour and 15 at night. I'm
Yeah.
eating 4,200 calories that day and waking up the next day 3 pounds lighter than I was the day before, right? So it's you gotta eat, you've got to feed that body, but you got to do it in the correct way, right?
Absolutely.
Which that's another thing. I love that you focus on macros and feeding the body the nutrition that it needs, because we have so many fad diets. There's this and that. Oh yeah, keto. There's carnivore. There's no carb. There's full of carbs. It's just eat vegetables. I find that we mostly do best when we have a well-balanced diet where
I
we take
agree.
our macros to fit our goals and our needs,
And our
our energy
lifestyle,
needs. Yeah, our
right?
lifestyle. Yeah, 100%.
Like I have that's why I use macros with binge eaters specifically, because I tell them, and this is against what most fitness people would tell you, but when you're dealing with binge eaters, you have this last supper mentality in your head. You think, if I go back on my diet tomorrow, I go back to restriction, I go back to eating super clean tomorrow. So if I open that ice cream, I best eat the whole freaking thing,
Yeah,
right? It's that last supper mentality. It's like, this is the last time I'm going to do this until next weekend when I screw it up and do it again. But that's the thought process. So when I start working with binge eating clients, I give them higher macros than I would like a cutting client. And I tell them to make one treat fit every single day. I don't care if you don't want one. Make
yeah,
one fit anyways, because if you have 2 days in a row where you didn't want one, you're going to get this I deserve it switch in your brain. And you'll be like, I deserve to have that treat today. I deserve to have 5 times of the treats today. So I'm going to do that. So
yeah,
that's why it works with binge eaters, because you take away the romance and the seduction of eating everything in one sitting, because you get to have it every day. So it doesn't
yeah,
seem so, it's not so like sexy in your brain to go and eat the whole thing, because I don't know when I'm going to get this again. So let me be that bad, let me be bad today. People love that feeling. And so if you take that away, then it takes away the need to binge eat. And that's like step one. But then underneath it, we have to go into that shame and the reason why they run to food in the first place. Because if it's not food, they'll run to something else, the way that it rolls, right? So
100%. 100%.
um
I actually do that too with my clients, and I also work with them on recipes on how to make good, fun, healthy foods that taste good. So
mm,
like my client that came down to visit, the first thing I did is like, hey, we're gonna make a meal together, because he struggles. He's always his son's always wanting something sweet. And so we took 140 grams of strawberries and bananas, 2 scoops of protein powder, a little bit of water. I said, taste this. And he drank it. He took a sip. He's like, "This is freaking delicious, right? It's double chocolate protein powder. It's bananas and strawberries." I'm like, "Bro, it's 320 calories. It's 44 grams of protein, 20 grams of carbs. It is absolutely perfect. It fits your macros. It's delicious. You're enjoying it. This is a snack. This is a treat. You can make this for dessert. You can make this for breakfast. It's very
yeah.
simple." Those little things just to give us, because sometimes we are looking for a little mouthfeel, right? We're looking for that little bam. That it's like Emma with her green chili doubles, right? Back in the day, right?
Totally.
So, but no, it's so. What do you got coming up? Anything fun coming up for you?
Yeah, so I teach 3 different courses. I have meta mindset is one that I've taught quite a few times. It's a prerequisite for the one that comes after that, which is called Path to Peace, which is a mind mastery double course. So it helps all the things that we're talking about getting out of your head, about working through the shame, about catching your thoughts in the act and myth busting them. That's what we learn and forgiving your past selves and basically releasing yourself from the prison in your mind. That
Do
is,
you teach these online?
yeah,
Okay, okay, cool.
yeah.
Continue.
So
I just was wondering how you do it.
yeah, so I have those courses. And then I have the macros, be the macros coach course and a business coaching course as well. So I teach how to coach macros metabolically and how to take your power back with that. And I teach how to build an authentic coaching business online. And what I'm doing right now is I am recording them all, editing them up, and putting them into an online academy that is going to
Okay.
be ridiculously affordable. And it'll include live calls, live Q&A and coaching calls with me. It'll include workshops. There will be, as we move through the courses, because it is 35 weeks of course material, eventually there will be workshop and speaking opportunities for the light workers that are going, like the people that are going to be going through these programs. They'll be able to teach their programs and, you know, initiate those types of things in the academy itself. So it's going to be a very self-sufficient, full service, beginning to end. Even if you are at the very beginning of your personal development journey and you want to become a coach or a light worker or a healer in any capacity, be it spiritual development, fitness, mind, body, I call it the mind, body, purpose program. And you can join and do it within 8 months. You would be fully certified to go and chase your dreams.
That's fantastic. That's really good. We actually, one of the things that we're really focused on ourselves is, I have found, coming from the trucking industry, it's a very unhealthy industry, right? I'm finishing up a book right now called Trucker Fit, which is exactly how I did what I did in the truck, how I planned how I prepped my food, the workouts I did. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but another thing that we're trying to focus on is helping those truck drivers in the workplace have access to nutrition coaches and personal trainers. Not, I mean, obviously it's not one-on-one at that point, right? But to answer questions, to help them get over some humps here and there. It's one of the reasons why I was drawn to you to begin with, is because we do have a similar path as far as, um, I don't know what your licenses or certifications are, and it really doesn't matter to me because I'm a huge believer that life experience and actual research is more important than certifications. And I say this because anybody, anybody can get a CPT like that. I mean, it is no work at all. You can go get a piece of paper that says you're a certified personal trainer. Does that mean you're good at it? Absolutely not, right? Doctors, when they go through medical school, take one nutrition course.
Oh
But you'll
yeah.
listen to your doctor about nutrition, right? Even if he's a freaking idiot and doesn't know what he's talking about and weighs 320 pounds. He's been running his private practice for 30 years. You're like, he's a doctor. He went to medical school. Like, doesn't mean he knows anything about nutrition, right? He knows about medicine. He may know what drugs to help you with or how to fix an internal medicine issue, but that does not mean he knows about nutrition. So I think it's very important for people that spend the time to do the research, to dig deep. You know, I research on a constant basis about food and macros and how different things work, and training, how this training may work for this person. This may work, like everybody's different, right? We all have different ways that, first of all, we have different goals, number one, right? And then we have different ways that things work for us, right? Some people work really well in a certain environment where other people, they need this type of environment. So, um, I do appreciate the fact that you have spent. I know that you have, just from posts that you've uh, made in Facebook and other areas, that you have spent extensive amounts of time researching nutrition and different things. Do you have certifications, or is it just diving into the old books?
Well, it's a little bit of both. I did take personal training. I did take my precision nutrition, but I don't use those things really per se. I have taken giant, giant coaching programs through, like I've spent tens of thousands of dollars to learn from people who produce results that I wanted.
Hmm.
And I personally don't fully believe in government funded education when it comes to this realm of learning, like when it comes to personal development and it comes to health, learning about health and fitness, because government funded to me suggests it's also funded by the pharmaceutical companies, which
It's like
want,
the old food pyramid, right? Which is a piece of
yeah,
crap, right?
they literally want you to stay sick and fat. Like I honestly believe, how do we not teach reverse dieting and nutrition courses?
Yeah.
Like, How is that not a thing that we are teaching to everyone how to rebuild your metabolism, because they want you to fuck it up and then forever have you on diabetes medication and heart disease medication and paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for surgeries? Like, where's the money in health and healing, right?
That you're speaking to Emma's jam when it comes to the old food pyramid. Now they teach that, and she is on that, yeah, girl.
Let me get started.
Yeah. We'll be on our third Emma if we get on that. She is not happy with the well, in this country with the FDA and their whole nutrition program. It drives her crazy.
I saw their new food pyramid in the States is really brutal. They got like sugar cereal and stuff over chicken and eggs. I was like, oh
Yeah,
my.
the new one they're using is called My Plate, which is that's the one that they're really focusing on now is called My Plate, and it's better than the old food pyramid, because the old food pyramid in the States was exactly that. It was grains and all that stuff, but like Emma explains it well. You want to talk about that grain part that you were talking about, girl?
Yeah, sorry, I've been taking notes. But I mean, yeah, like the how we grew up was you wake up, you gotta start breakfast, right? You gotta wake up, so you gotta have cereal, Pop-Tarts, bagels, Sunny D, and of course the cereals are Cocoa Puffs, Rice Krispies, Cheerios, Honey Nut Cheerios, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Captain Crunch. Terrible, like just terrible, like diabetes in a freaking bag. Um, and so like I don't think people realize. Well, they definitely don't realize. I know they don't realize. Okay, so first thing you do when you wake up is you eat all of that's sugar. It's all sugar, regardless. And the first thing that happens is your blood sugar will spike and your insulin will spike, and then it's going to crash. And then the rest of the entire day, you're sluggish because your body's trying to constantly hit that blood sugar spike again, get that dopamine rush, get that blood sugar spike, and then of course your insulin's going to spike. And so then they wonder why over 80% of America is pre-diabetic and over 50% is diabetic. And it starts with the diet. And so so it's like grains are the number one, it's the most important. And then you have like meats, no vegetables, and then you have meats, and then you have fats. When really it should be like meats, carbs, fats, and then really vegetables, but that goes with carbs, really. I mean, it really does at the end of the day. But the carbs, like they just people
Well,
just do not
veggies are
realize.
fiber, right? So it's a different kind of carb.
That's
But
what I was about to say.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
they don't realize. They're like, oh well, this has fiber in it, or no, this is applesauce, this is healthy, or no, this is orange juice, this is healthy. I'm like, it's not healthy. It's going to do the exact same thing that if you went and drank Diet Coke or regular Coke would do, because there's no fiber. You can go
yeah.
sit and eat sugar and then go eat sugar cane from the actual cane itself. You will not even see a remote similarity in blood sugar spike from eating the cane regular versus the processed like granulated sugar, because you have fiber, which counteracts that process of that quick insulin spike. Like literally the people ask me all the time, like, how do you lose weight? How do you lose weight? And I'm like, well, the first thing you can do is stop drinking whatever the hell you're drinking. Cause I'm telling you
Fruit
right now,
juice,
you're
yeah, that's the
probably,
worst.
yeah, you're probably drinking about 40 to 80 grams of sugar a day. Let's average it about 1,000 to 1,500 calories a day just in drinks. That's not
Well, Emma,
including any food that you're eating.
you can't eat 8, 9 oranges in one sitting, and that's what it takes to make a glass of
No.
orange juice, right?
And you're telling me you can sit there and eat the 40 apples it would take to
Yeah,
eat a container of applesauce? And I love
yeah.
applesauce. I love applesauce. But I also know that I would not eat that many apples in one sitting. I think I eat like one.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, like the food system in America has completely just destroyed all of the population, like really. And like you were saying, there's no money in healthy food. I take that back. There's money in healthy food, but it's marketed healthy food, and it's not really
Yeah.
healthy. There's not money in vegetables. There's not money in fruit. There's not money in rice, but there's plenty of money in your vegan friendly hydrogenated oil processed fake eggs and fake chicken. And
Yeah.
What's it like?
uh,
What's it like in Canada? Do you guys have oversight, like nutrition oversight? What um
I don't deal
there?
with doctors at all. So we
Yeah.
have like the recommended stuff that comes through, but it's majorly like, I mean, it's very similar to what you guys have. Like, we're not much better at all. Like, I would even say nutritionally, we're probably further behind. But you
Yeah.
guys have, well, even still, like, when it comes to the food industry, and there's no money in the food industry, there's tons of money in the food industry and in the pharmaceutical industry. And if you think about who owns both of those things, you follow the money. This
Oh
one
yeah.
directly relates to this one. And then look at who also rewrote the whole medical system back in the early 1900s. And you can see all three of them work together, right? So it's
Well,
like,
early in the 19th century in the United States, the sugar industry, the lobbyists actually paid off Congress to say that sugar is good and meat fat is bad.
oh
That
yeah.
meat fat is what leads to heart disease. And
Yeah.
what they're learning now, what people don't realize, is it's really sugar that causes the damage. High cholesterol is not as big as a problem if you have a very low sugar diet. What happens is it's not that we're eating cheeseburgers, it's that we're eating cheeseburgers and we're also eating a bunch of candy bars and a bunch of other crap that destroys the arteries, and then the cholesterol goes to do its job, which it's a repair mechanism, right? The cholesterol, you have your good and bad cholesterol. The way it was explained to me by a doctor, the best way is that your to not remember which one is which, but one is like an empty bus and one is like a full bus, right? Your HDL and LDL. So the empty bus goes around the body, picking up pathogens and damage and cleaning things out, and it takes it back to the liver to be processed, right? So when we're creating lots of damage through our diet and especially high sugar diets, well, that cholesterol is going to start creating plaque and blockages because it has a lot of work to do. And people don't realize that you literally have the food industry paying off the government to make us less healthy.
And for what? Because it's LinkedIn. The people who paid off the government for the food industry to make us less healthy also come in swooping in to save us with all of their pharmaceutical
The
drugs.
pharmaceuticals, and it all comes down to the Benjamins, right? It's all
Yeah,
about the money. It's all about the money. Well, hey, guys, it's getting late on a Saturday.
it is.
Jordyn, I'm telling you right now, like I said, I will continue to follow you. I love what you're doing. I
Thank you.
appreciate the effort that you put into it and your desire to help people get out of this vicious cycle. And the food's one thing, but for me, especially with you, it's that mental clarity, the ability to understand what's going on in our minds, and kind of get over those humps, get over those hurdles so that we can get better. I really appreciate that. Are there any last words that you have that you would like to share? Oh, and just so you know, in the description of this podcast, we'll be putting Jordyn's website in there. You guys, I'm telling you right now, follow her on Facebook, follow her website. She has great information, and I know that her desire is to help and uplift. But is there any last words that you might have for our listeners, or anything that you'd like to say in leaving?
No, just thank you for bringing me on. I love coming in and being able to speak with people who are of the same like-mindedness, I guess is the right thing, where we're on a mission to help other people, right? Like my whole thing is how can we help people so that they can help people, right? Like
Yeah,
that's the primary thing. And to go back to the very beginning of what we were talking about with the ego and everything else, one of my favorite things to say and live by is the only thing I know is that I know nothing. And your ego is going to freak out for the first little bit when you start saying that, because it's like, well, what do you mean? I know all of these things. I know these things. I'm an expert in this. I know this. I know that. But you free yourself from the need to be the expert. You can actually just take a deep breath and be like, if I'm wrong, it's okay because I don't know anything.
Yeah.
Right?
I hear you.
Like a
I
big
hear you.
exhale. And then you're free to learn. You're free to be the beginner. You're free to be the student all the time. And that's how you learn from life. That's how you start to step back from this egoic cycle that we are all in trying to prove ourselves. Right.
Yeah.
So
100%.
all I
100%.
know is that I know nothing.
That is right. Know nothing and trying to learn new stuff every day. Emma, how about you, girl? Any final words before we kick out of here?
Nope, just get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
That's right. That is right. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. I love that. I love that statement. Well, you know me. There's certain things that I like to see happen. I love to see people smile. I want everybody to have a great day. Thank you so much for all those that follow. Please like and subscribe. We're just trying to bring you good information that we think can help you make you better. And with that, I say get out there and work hard, peoples, and remember, don't forget to smile. Thanks so much for watching or listening. Remember, don't forget to like and subscribe. You can find us on Facebook at Work Hard Peoples LLC or Instagram at Work Hard Peoples LLC. You can also find us on our website at workhardpeoples.com. Have a great day or night. Don't forget to smile.